Now let's talk about some big names out there. Dearness Johnson, 41% rostered. I'd say about 20 to 30% of your fab. If you're desperate, why? I mean, this guy was going to be on my cut list this week until earlier today. Nick Chubb has tested positive for COVID-19. Now, he is vaccinated. He could return by Sunday with 2 false tests here, but that hasn't happened yet this year. That's one of the few things that's been steady about this insane NFL season. So ultimately, I'm not expecting the Chubb to go. And we saw what Dearness Johnson did last time out. He was a top 5 running back that week with over 25 fantasy points, had 24 of 31 backfield touches. But his mate last time that ate into that workload, so 7 touches, went to Felton. He's also on the COVID list. They had to sign Brian Hill to just bring in a warm body as their running back too. I think we'd see a near 100% snap share for Dearness Johnson, all the receiving work, all the rushing workload, and certainly all the goal line work. So if you're in win now mode, if you have bad bye week blues or just need a flex injection of 20%, 20 fantasy point upside here, I think Dearness Johnson brings that to the table. Now, granted, and this is what we say before every waiver wire show. Of course, as I go through this list, prioritize your needs. If you don't need this 1 week rental, if you're looking more long-term, if you're a playoff bound, obviously anything can happen between now and now, but if you're looking good for the playoffs, this might not be your play if you don't need him. You don't need to go blow a ton of money for a 1 week rental if you're in good shape. But a lot of us scrapping around trying to convince get ourselves into this playoff push. Nobody brings better 1 week upside here than Dearness Johnson as the last man standing, truly last man standing of the Browns backfield. One of the few guys that you could blow your load for and actually know you'd get some value. Mark Ingram comes in with longer term value and is my number 2 pickup of the week, was number 5 last week. Hopefully you were able to sneak him in while he was cheaper, because I do think you're going to have to pay about 15 to 20% of your fab, whereas last week, I got him for like $5 last week, and I don't even think anybody else bid on him. So a week early, last week was nice. If you're catching up to the crowd, though, I do think it's going to be worth, compared to some of these other options, at least this week, a nice bid, especially given that Nick Underhill today reporting the Saints hosted 3 free agent running backs, suggesting that Kamara, there's whispers Underhill said, that he might have gotten a little banged up. If we get a game where Kamara sits, Ingram will be a smash top 15 play just alongside Dearness Johnson, but he also brings significantly more Mark Ingram long-term upside here. 43 yards on 9 carries, also had 5 receptions, more than Alvin Kamara, believe it or not, this past week, for 21 additional yards. We've now seen him come in there for about 30% of the rushing workload, about 30% of the running back receiving workload. Solid overall production here from Ingram. 20 touches or opportunities rather for Alvin Kamara last week compared to 14 for Mark Ingram. Not that far of disparity here. Certainly lowering Ingram's rest of season. Kamara's rest of season outlook, whereas Ingram looking rejuvenated. Nothing huge yet in a breakout type of performance, but it could be coming with that type of workload in a solid offense by one of the better lines in football. I want to keep harping on this guy. I know it didn't pan out huge this past week, but Van Jefferson, 43% rostered. He still needs to be well over half of leagues. I think he's worth 15 to 20% as my number 1 receiver ad of this week, assuming Brandon Ayuk is gone at least. He saw 7 targets, only holding 3 of them for 41 yards. Had those deep looks still on complete lockdown. Played. This was the key here. Yes, the final output, 7.1 PPR points, nothing special, nothing to go sprint towards. But he played over 90% of the snaps. Now that Deshaun Jackson's gone, now that Tutu Atwell is done for the season, this 11 personnel, nobody runs 11 personnel more than the Rams here. He has that on complete lock, Van Jefferson does, running just as many routes as Cooper Kupp, as Robert Woods these past 2 weeks. And yes, those two are always going to be primary targets ahead of him, but he plays that very valuable field stretching role. In fact, he was entering this week just 100 yards away from Robert Woods, just about 30 fantasy. They were neck and neck in terms of their production. I still think you can get some nice usable upside almost every week from Van Jefferson, certainly when the matchup is ripe. It should have been against the Titans. They've kind of stiffened up these last couple weeks on defense, though. I expect some better weeks going forward for Van Jefferson and one of the first receivers I'd look to. I also really like, and some of you might even prefer, let me know what your thoughts are, Rashod Bateman. Love this guy as a player. 5 catches, 52 yards this past week on 8 targets. The 8 targets were a season high. The snaps, 66% of them were a season high, as was the 82% route participation rate, another season high. Granted, Sammy Watkins was out again. He is practicing this week. Decent chance Watkins returns to the field, and who knows how this shakeout will be. We haven't seen Bateman truly explode even with Watkins off the field. Could cap his ability, his path to doing so once Watkins returns, but he's still seen 22%, 14%, 19% target share. That's not bad for a rookie coming in off a big knee injury, getting his legs under him. We know this running game is mediocre, and they are just playing play after. They're always in the top of plays run each and every week. They get the Dolphins here on Thursday Night Football. That short week actually might keep Watkins off one more week, and an easy matchup, fourth most points allowed to wide receivers against those Dolphins. I could see Bateman having his true breakout on Thursday Night Football. We'll continue to wait for it, but the usage trends just continue in the right direction, and we know the type of prospect this guy is. We also know the type of prospect Elijah Moore is, and it's great to finally see it come to fruition. Was maybe my favorite sneaky wide receiver prospect coming into the season, but man, it has been dreadful so far. Started off with like negative yards in his first game and really couldn't find any footing while Zach Wilson was at quarterback. In fact, he averaged 5 points per game with Zach Wilson at QB. In non-Wilson starters, he's averaging over 20 fantasy points per game. He was the wide receiver 1, folks, this last week, and that's still with only running 51% of the routes. So on half of the plays, he was able to put up 7 catches on 8 targets, 84 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He needs to become a 100% route run type of participant, at least 75% moving forward, given the production we're seeing out of this guy after the catch, deep down the field, at every layer, he's getting it done. Such a savvy route runner. All the things we loved are finally coming to fruition for this guy. He does have the Bills coming up. Tough matchup there. But after that, it is a gravy schedule for the Jets. They're saying they're going to rest Wilson until he's 100% healthy. And I think that's kind of code for let's get Mike White under center as long as we can and use Wilson's health as an excuse. So it's not like we're benching him. He's not fully healthy yet, right? I hope so, because this offense has been sparked by everybody other than Zach Wilson. Even Josh Johnson was a better player. It's a great scheme in that sense that anybody other than Zach Wilson's getting it done there. I think Elijah Moore has been a big part of that and will continue to be. And as you guys see here, I actually haven't been mentioning the fab. D'Ernest, again, 20 to 30% if you need that stream. I think Ingram about 15 to 20%. And then these 3 receivers all around that 15% range. And Van Jefferson, Bateman, Elijah Moore. It's going to start to go down pretty fast from here. But I think all of those guys have true, genuine upside for your stretch. What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments. Check out some more videos. And join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.